Dear colleagues, my name is Dragana Dimitrijević and I will present you the results we consider relevant to the content of our research named Barriers to Distance Learning, Perceptions of Secondary School Teachers and Students in Serbia. The research was done on the mentorship of Professor Marija Jovanović. As we all know, distance learning considers all forms of learning without direct contact between the person leading the learning process and the person receiving it. Distance learning can be realized through auditory, visual, printed media, and by computer interaction technology. Also, authors distinguish e-learning, it's a learning based on computers, and mobile learning, learning based on use mobile devices. All those types of learning were represented in our country in this pandemic period, so in our research we used the term distance learning as a term which implies all of them. Distance learning is before pandemia, used in adult education, formal and non-formal education, primarily as a supplement to regular face-to-face classes. For example, in universities, communication by email is very often used to supplement regular classes, but distance learning was not widely used in primary and secondary education. Since the pandemic outbreak, education faced the biggest changes, and distance learning became one of the most current issues facing modern pedagogical theory and practice. Such as all types of learning, distance learning also has its potentials and barriers. Research before pandemic indicates barriers such as lack of time, technical skills, administrative issue, and researchers in pandemic period distinguish a little bit different barriers such as internet and technological availability, teaching organization, lack of students' motivation, stress in students, and fear of failing. This research is part of a broader study that involves a more thorough study of distance learning, which was conducted on a sample of 422 students and 120 secondary school teachers in Southeast Serbia. The purpose of this paper is to identify the most common barriers and answer the question: does teacher and students have similar or different attitudes about the barriers they encountered in distance learning during the first months of his implementation? The instrument we use was Likert type assessment scale, consists of 5 subscales which represent group of barriers, such as evaluation-related, content-related, organizational administrative, social emotional, and technical technological group. Cronbach alpha test indicates that the instrument is reliable for use in the sample of students as well as in the sample of teachers. The results we came to show that evaluation-related barriers are the most common in students as well as in teachers, while the technical technological barriers are the least common one in both samples. Regarding differences in students' and teachers' perception of barriers, statistically analysis shown that teachers significantly more often highlight evaluation-related, organizational, administrative, and social emotional barriers. For the other hand, students more often experience learning content-related barriers. In the second part of our results, we consider the correlation between different groups of barriers. The results confirm positive correlation in the participants' attitudes in all tested groups. The strongest correlation was between social emotional and organizational administrative, and between content related with evaluational group of barriers. Also, it's worth mentioning the strong correlation between evaluational and content related barriers with all others. All presented results imply some of conclusions of this work. High frequency of evaluation-related barriers, such which consider cheating on tests, appraisement, higher grades than in face-to-face class, indicates that our participants are aware of shortcomings in the quality of knowledge acquired during this pandemic period. The obtained data indicates that evaluation-related, organizational, administrative, and social-emotional barriers are statistically significant more often in a sample of teachers. Distinguish positive correlation, which is statistically significant between all tested groups of barriers, point to the conclusions about objective perception and critical reflection of our respondents on this problem by emphasizing the importance of all didactic elements of teaching, such as quality of the teaching process, level of knowledge acquired, the objectivity, and all of them in relation to the learning material and technical side of teaching. All conclusions point to a number of pedagogical implications by which the new specific teaching contents, context, virtual context, and distance learning can be significantly improved. Thank you very much for your attention.